And we are back here at Pac-12 Media Days, joined by Dan Lanning, head coach at Oregon. Coach, thanks for the time. Let's talk about your team. We know you got a ton of talent. You got a lot of elite players, but how have you grown this program philosophically from year one, where everything was probably moving fast last year, to here we are entering year two?
Yeah, we've done a couple studies. You know, we just recently finished up doing like a SWOT analysis of our team, and it's really fun. You get to peel back the layers, ask our guys, you know, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, where are our opportunities, and what are our threats? And I thought our guys did a really good job of breaking that down, figuring out what we can really lean into, what we have to improve on, and what can get in the way of our success. It's been fun.
Of course, the SWOT analysis at Nike. I love that on that campus. How did those guys receive that for you, and what stood out from that analysis?
Yeah, I think, you know, big pieces, we've talked about Oregon for a long time being a really good program. And, you know, we studied a little bit this offseason the book, Jim Collins' Good to Great. And we want to make those steps. You know, what's that look like? And I think part of that's, you know, ownership and accountability within our team. Our players have really embraced that. And they've done a good job of, you know, sometimes it's not always fun to hear what you're not good at. And sometimes it's not always fun to figure out what you need to get better at. But I think our guys have done a really good job of attacking that.
Okay, we'll open up questions to the media. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring over a microphone. Make sure to state your name and affiliation. We'll start right over here on the left, the fourth row.
Eric Scopel, 24/7 Sports. Dan, speaking with Jeff earlier, he talked about how it was a big honor to be here and represent you guys. Why was he the right choice, and maybe was he showing you in the last year?
Yeah, Jeff's just a great example of a guy that's put in the hard work. You know, he made a position change early on in college, and now gone through the process of changing himself, his body, really become a student of the game. He's a guy that lives by example every single day. And he really, you know, exudes some of the attributes that we want our players to have.
Right next to the Matt.
Matt Preem, 24/7 Sports. You said last season pass rush needed to get better. You said that spring season needed to get better. Now that you've kind of evaluated spring ball and your roster's intact, why do you feel like your group's better at that area this coming season?
Yeah, I think we have better depth, better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, and we have done a good job in recruiting, bringing some great talent in that can make us better there.
Next, we're on the far right here in the front.
Cameron Derby, KZI Eugene. Dan, you're really big every week on talking to your players about going to the doctor, getting a prescription, and putting it to execution. So for Dan Lanning, looking back over year one and then into year two, what did the doctor say to Dan Lanning over the offseason?
Yeah, I'm not going to give you all the secrets of the trade, but I got a lot to improve on, just like everybody on our team. But it goes back to that SWOT analysis. Like, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and are you willing to hear them, right? The real truths. You know, we leaned in, you know, recently to some of the principles that were written down in 1977 by Rob Strasser for Nike, and those 10 principles, a lot of those hold true today, right? And our business has changed, right, is one of those big principles. And we got to be willing to adapt in a world in college football where everything changes. The other thing we talked about is living off the land, right? We have great resources at Oregon, right? And you look, we shared a story of Mariano Rivera when he was playing baseball as a kid. He used a cardboard glove, right? And he wasn't really worried about looking at somebody else's plate. He was really focused on what he needed to do to get better. And I think that's the same thing that I try to do. Certainly that's what our players are trying to do in our program right now.
Staying on the right side in the back.
Coach Kevin Turner, Sun Devil Football Network. And a question for you is, you know, Kirby Smart and George's, the archetype, you obviously had a big part in that. Do you have conversations with Kirby in the offseason? Does he give you advice? And then to follow up on that, have you given any advice or unsolicited advice or had conversations with Kenny Dillingham, the Arizona State new head coach?
Yeah, I'll tell you this first. As a head coach, we just don't get a lot of wiggle time to talk to each other. And anytime we're talking to each other, you feel like you should be talking to a recruit. That being said, certainly I get an opportunity to catch up with Coach Smart and have a lot of admiration and respect for the opportunities he created for me. And I have that same relationship with Kenny. You know, we're probably talking more about each other's families than we are talking about football. He's a great student of the game. He's going to be a phenomenal coach for Arizona State, and excited to see what he does there.
We'll go in the back here on the left.
Marja Benet with 4.0 Sports. Coach, can you talk about the impact that the new coming students that you plan on them making?
Yeah, I hope a big one. You know, we have over 45 newcomers on scholarship, you know, almost over 50 players on our team that are new to our roster, and you hope that they do a great job of transitioning in with the guys that we already have here, some great veteran leadership that exists on our team. But one thing that's been great is the opportunities that we get to spend together away from football. I think that makes that transition that much smoother for our players. You know, recently we were able to do some community service. I'm really proud of the fact that we have, in the last 6 months, we've done over 850 hours of community service with 16 different organizations. And I think that's a part of realizing these guys, you know, what's it mean to be an Oregon Duck? It means doing a little bit more. And those guys, as they transition, getting to be a part of a project where you build beds, you know, for a community or do some of those things, I think that helps with that transition process.
We're up here in the front on the left.
Touchdowns and Tangents Network, Kenneth Berry. Coach, can you describe the synergy you have with Bo Nix? Obviously, both of you coming from the SEC, but how did that kind of play into the relationship last year, and how kind of more in sync this year are you guys?
Yeah, I can tell you what Bo's thinking right now. Bo's, you know, competing against Bo's where it starts. You see how much of a competitor he is. And getting to go against him, I knew he was a guy I didn't want to face. So when you get the chance to bring him on your team, it's really exciting. But Bo's not just our quarterback. He's also my babysitter. I walked in the house the other day. My wife was out with some of the other coaches' wives, I believe, and Bo's in the living room there. And I'm like, what are you up to, man? He goes, oh, the boys just finished basketball practice. They're getting ready for bed. So there's a unique connection there, Bo. It's more than just football. He's a member of the family. So.
Staying on the left-hand side in the third booth here.
Andy Amash, the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Dan, obviously there's so much quarterback talent in the Pac-12 this year. From a defensive point of view, how do you approach that in a league that wants to throw the ball as much as the Pac-12 seems to want to?
Well, you try to figure out what they do best and stop it. It's certainly an exciting time to be in this league. You get to go against great quarterbacks every single week, but I think that's part of the challenge that every real competitor, you know, enjoys, is getting to go against elite competition.
Far back right.
How you doing, Coach? Anthony Morrow, New Stitch Media. With the landscape changing in the Pac-12 with USC and UCLA going to Big Ten, how do you feel that's going to affect the program's recruiting appeal?
Yeah, I'm really focused on Oregon, and we've been able to recruit elite talent since I've been here. We'll continue to do that. You know, our focus is winning games, and I'm a true believer if you win games, the rest takes care of itself.
I got to ask you, what's Bo Nix's hourly rate for babysitting?
Man, no. He does a lot of things from the goodness of his heart, right? But I hear he can pull top dollar nowadays.
That's what I'm hearing too. And I think to have a leader like that, when he decided to come back, and you look at the pieces around him, you get most of your run game production back, but a new look offensive line. Just overall, how are you feeling about where the offense is under your new OC, Will Stein?
Yeah, well, it certainly helps having your quarterback back, right? And, you know, we were one of the best teams in college football protecting our quarterback last year. A lot of that credit goes to Bo, but a lot of that credit goes to our offensive line. We have some of those pieces back, but there's going to be a new group in front of them. We have the talent, and, you know, as we went through our SWOT analysis, we said, hey, one of our weaknesses is we haven't had the same experience on that offensive line this past year. All right, so how do we create that? And I'm so impressed with the job the offensive line has done in creating that this offseason. The extra work they do after workouts, the time they spend together to create that chemistry that's necessary. But certainly Bo's a big piece of that. And then you talk about having weapons outside and a great backfield. I think all those pieces add together to set us up for success.
Next question is row 3 here in the middle. Oh, yeah, go ahead on the right side.
Hi, Coach. Brendan Mao, Burn City Sports in Phoenix. I'm just wondering how Kenny Dillingham is going to do for the Sun Devils. How do you think he's going to do? And then how hard is it going to be when you have to play against ASU?
Well, when you play him, it's going to be like playing your brother, right? Like if I was playing my brother in basketball right now, I'd want to whoop his ass, right? That's the goal. But Kenny's a competitor too, and he's a great coach. And obviously he's familiar with that area. That's home for him. I think he'll do great things for the Sun Devils.
One more. Oh. Nope, good. All right, let's go back here.
Coach, you talk about your offense and you talk about the history of this program. You're always connected to it. Specifically, a little over a year ago, you lost Spencer Webb. How have you maintained your relationship to his legacy within the locker room, with the players you coach, and for you personally?
Yeah, it's something, you know, there's really not a day that goes by that you don't think about it. And tomorrow we finish every summer workout with the climb up Spencer's Butte. So that's going to be a big, capstone to our season. There's going to be some guys that go on that walk that didn't know Spencer, right? There's going to be some guys that climb that hill that didn't know him personally. And there's going to be a lot of people that were impacted by Spencer every day when we climb that butte. And it's something that means a lot to me. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to express the importance of life and taking advantage of the time while you're here on this earth for our guys.
We have one on the far right here in the second booth.
Coach, good afternoon. Thanks for making time. I wanted to ask you about your philosophy as it relates to the transfer portal. Do you see it as a really helpful tool? Are you using it more than you'd say some of your competitors are, or less? And how do you see it integrated with high school recruiting?
Yeah, I can't really speak to our competitors, but I'll speak to us. If we find somebody that we think will make our program better and they fit the characteristics of what we're looking for our team, we think they'll be a great teammate, they bring us talent, then we're going to do everything we can to make sure they're on our team. We're always going to recruit high school. I think we had over 29 players coming in as freshmen this year that we're really, really excited about. But the transfer portal is a tool that we want to use, and we want to be the best at it.
Hey, Coach, I want to follow up on that. Like with the transfer portal, with where college football is, seems like there's never time to take a break, especially for the head coach. But your core DNA trait, number one, is connection. And you clearly threw a couple examples of or competing to find moments of connection within your players. Like, how do you make sure that is a point of emphasis with all the responsibilities, requests that I'm sure go your way as the head coach?
Yeah, you got to remember what's the most important piece. And for us, that is the most important piece. That's the secret sauce for us. On fourth down, you're going to go that much harder when you care about the guy next to you. And it's just as important for our coaches and our families. I think we just got off some vacation time we got to spend together. But I'm sure Sophia's ready for me to go back to work right now. She's tired of, the rules are different when I'm at the house. But we just love having the players over at our house. We love spending time with them away from football, that community service. Those things, I think, are really special for us.
Talking about your family, because I think that is something, the relationships and the connection to your players, but being a dad, I know how important it is to you, and you talk about making time for your kids. So what is the key to that? Because I know you only have so many, you have the same amount of hours that we all do in the day. How do you structure your world so that you can be the dad that I know you want to be?
Yeah, the hardest part isn't time, it's intentional time, right? It's the willingness to say, I'm going to put my phone down for a little bit and focus on those guys. But we're competitors in our house just like we are on the football field. So it might be a board game one night. It might be a puzzle. It might just be a conversation. But you just have to find the time to make it. And luckily, I'm head coach now, but at home, Sophia's the head coach. Right, she kind of runs the show, and she's just like all of our coaches' wives. They give so much of their time. You want to make sure that you find the time to be intentional back with your family.
Speaking of intentional, time in Eugene, you take the job and it is all gas. You're rolling. You've had some moments to get in touch with the community. You talk about this community service hours. What have you learned about this community that you didn't know a year ago just based on the requests from the job?
Yeah, just so welcoming, and it's been a place that we really enjoy being a part of. You're looking at being an hour and a half from the coast, being an hour and 30 minutes from the mountains, getting to experience really all the things at Oregon, and I feel like there's so much more that I haven't got to see yet. So I'm excited to continue to explore the community, explore the state of Oregon, but the people are what make it so special.
Next question is fourth row here on the left.
Eric Scopel, 24/7 Sports. Dan, a lot of newcomers, youth at linebacker. I'm curious how important Jeff is going to be there and just kind of an overview of that group.
Yeah, overall, I'm really excited about that group. I think nowadays in college football, at linebacker especially, you have to be really athletic. The day and age of having an old Mike linebacker that can go B gap to B gap or C gap to C gap that's not a reality anymore. You got to have guys that can run, guys that have blitzability, can cover. Obviously Jeff fits those traits as a guy who's a former safety. You've got guys that we were able to bring in like Justin Jacobs, Connor Soley. They're going to be able to add to that. And then you have a guy and Jamal Hill that we've moved as well. Also excited to see some of our young guys develop. Devin Jackson, some of the other guys on our team that have had really good off seasons. So it's a group that I'm excited about. I think we have some great talent there, and we just got to go get that experience on the field.
When you talk about that front seven, you go through the roster, and it's a lot of fourth, fifth, sixth, even seventh year guys. What have they done to some of the new faces, the 50 new faces or so that have entered into this program?
Yeah, that leadership, it means a little bit more coming from a player than it does a coach. So when a Casey Rogers has something to say and he's speaking to a young freshman, I think they hear the message a little bit better. And one thing you're excited about is when you start to hear your players, saying the same message that they're hearing from you. Those guys carry that message on really strong, and they're the ones that live it day to day. right? I'm going to play 0 snaps for Oregon this year, right? But those guys are going to be playing a lot of snaps, and it's important that they understand what the goals are of the team. And when you have some veteran leadership, that certainly helps.
I've always felt that college football like writes itself, like it's the best drama, unscripted. Tez Johnson comes in as Bo Nix's brother. When he came into Bo's family, it's been well told, you know, his hoodie was an Oregon hoodie. Like, it's been his dream school. Now he's there. What have you noticed about him as a wide receiver, transfer from Troy on this roster?
He's fast. No, it's been great having Tez. I think he's been a great compliment to that room. He's been integrated in the team really well. It's nice having his big brother on the team. That certainly helps. But, you know, Tez works, and he's one of those guys, when he steps on the grass, you can tell he loves football. And there's a lot of things that he wants to get better at. There's a lot of goals that he has set for himself. And as long as he keeps that in front of him, what he has to improve, what he has to attack, I think he can be a real asset to our program.
Time for one last one here in the audience on the left.
Matt Prehm, 24/7 Sports. Most of your freshmen last year redshirted. You've talked a lot about football as a developmental sport. Just where are those guys at a year, you know, into the program, and just how much can you lean on those guys to provide even more depth, which you've talked is pretty important?
Yeah, it's been fun this weekend, or really just being down here. I'm getting some text messages and some updates from our strength coach, Coach Love, and some of the gains these guys have had this offseason. A lot of these guys have changed their body, and being a year into the program, they're going to have opportunities to really impact and make an impact on our program. So excited to see where those guys come along. You know, if they're good enough, they're old enough. We don't care how old you are. We care how good you are. And we have some good players that are ready to take the field for us, and some great depth, and I hope some of those freshmen are a part of that.
September 2nd versus Portland State. It'll be here before we know it, and we're looking forward to seeing your team on the field this season. Thanks for your time, Coach. Enjoy the rest of Media Day, and looking forward to catching up with some of your guys.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.